Hi.
Hi.
Oh, sorry. I'm useless with anything. Like my daughter's just been helping me set it all up because I'm useless with technology.
Yeah, I'm useless with technology as well.
No worries.
Now, I can't see you. Is there a way we could see you?
I don't know.
Is your daughter around? Could
Yeah,
she?
she is.
I'll have a look.
Thank
It's not
you.
my laptop. 1 minute.
I think there might be like a little filming symbol.
Yeah, there's
Click to show your face.
there's that. 1 moment.
Don't worry, we've got time.
Oh, we could touch up your appearance on this.
Don't bother.
What's your daughter's name?
Amy.
Hello.
Oh, hi. Can you come to my house so that I can touch up my appearance, please?
You're fine. You don't need it. You don't need it either, Mum.
Back.
We've had our heads chopped off here, but
Yeah.
All right, I might ask you that question again. So yeah, if you don't mind, can you just talk a little bit about your personal experience with Merryn in our NHS hospitals?
First 3 years was absolutely horrendous, wasn't it? There was so much abuse.
Horrific abuse. Like really just, it was that was when you got accused, well, when me and you actually, both of us, because I was mentioned on it too, weren't I, of the Munchausen by proxy, well, fabricated illness now it is, isn't it?
Yeah. I think the latter 3 years, although the care was better, and they understood how ill she was, they didn't understand ME.
No.
And they thought that if they got her nutrition right, that all the symptoms would improve, and they couldn't understand why they weren't. And it was only when I saw her medical notes before the inquest that I realised there was so much going on that I wasn't aware of behind the scenes in the multidisciplinary meetings with psychiatry, who she passed the mental health assessment that
time and time again.
Yeah,
like
that they insisted on doing. But the psychiatrist at the time said the fact that she had passed it showed there must be a mental health issue there, because nobody who was so ill would pass a mental health assessment. There would be mental health problems. So therefore, the fact that she passed it, I mean, this is Kafkaesque, isn't it? The fact she passed the mental health assessment showed there was a mental health issue. And luckily for us, I only found out this from Merryn's palliative care doctor a year or so later. The other doctors who were on the multidisciplinary team had previous experience with the psychiatrist and didn't fully trust him, and they got somebody else in then. So they didn't go along with it. So that he wanted to section Merryn for passing a mental health assessment, basically.
when you say it like that, it's like, it really is that if someone calls you crazy and say, no, I'm not crazy, then only a crazy person would say that, isn't it? It really is. You're stuck in that loop then, aren't you?
Yeah. So the next person, the next mental health person that came on board then, he was a psychiatrist, although he would never tell us he was a psychiatrist. And I remember saying to him, what kind of doctor are you? What role is it? And he went, oh, well, I come around the hospital talking to people. And he would never say who he was. And in the end, I gave up trying to find it, because I thought it's mental health. I know it's something to do with mental health. And his notes were really upsetting to read. He still maintained that overall they thought there was some kind of mental health issue that they just hadn't discovered yet.
Is that the one who wrote in about Disney?
Overshot, yeah.
Yeah, Overshot. He wrote in that because Merryn liked Disney, she must clearly have mental health issues because she's an adult who likes Disney.
Yeah, and I babied her, and all it's brought it up, actually, seeing the things that are going on with Millie, because it was in there like, why is the mother allowed to stay in the room, even though we'd explained time and time again Merryn can't speak for herself. And even though I would always say to Merryn, if a doctor came in the room, do you want me to speak for you? And she'd get quite annoyed at me later, saying, why do you always ask that? I said, I've got to, because I've got to show the doctors that you are giving me permission to. And that was taking energy from her that she didn't have. She shouldn't have had to go through that. But the notes that he'd wrote were it's quite a while since I read them because they were so upsetting. But the reasons for thinking there were mental health issues, she was babyfied because she was the youngest member of the family, and constantly questioning if there was an eating disorder, and saying we have no evidence of this, but we need to keep that in mind that it could be an eating disorder, and we'll have to monitor if the mother tries to change the feed and stop as much feed going in. And we know we've got like respite, we can like resource safeguarding. Again, you know, we've got sectioning as our backup in case we need it. And this was from the hospital that was good.
Yeah.
The other hospitals inflicted pain on purpose.
Yeah, they did.
They tortured her. They inflicted pain on purpose. And I've mentioned this in every interview that I've ever had, and nobody ever includes it.
No, and we've always wanted it included.
It will be included. If a hospital is inflicting pain on purpose, why would we not include it in the interview when I'm trying to raise awareness about the abuse and the neglect that is happening?
Yeah.
So please,
For me,
talk more on that.
For me, the most obvious example of that is when she went in to have the pedge fitted. It was just, I remember I wasn't with you because you was in the hospital and Merryn was there, and I remember I was here at home because I was at university at the time, and I remember going back to uni because I needed to be around people after you told me what had happened, and just crying the whole way. And I got to my uni house, and all of my housemates knew what had happened, and none of them knew what to say because it was that horrific.
Yeah. She'd gone in to have a pedge fitted because her ME specialist had asked for that. He'd seen her at the last appointment. We'd not been able to attend because he lives some way away from us because we'd had to find someone.
Yeah.
None of the ones near us were suitable. So it's quite hard getting to an appointment with him anyway. And we'd had to cancel some, but in the end we were so worried. Thought we've got to attend it because she was just losing weight and she couldn't eat. She couldn't swallow. What little she did eat, she was just vomiting back up. So he said, Merryn was asking for a feeding tube, which is another thing I just don't understand. These girls are asking for feeding tubes and they're getting told that they're anorexic. No one with an eating disorder would ask for a feeding tube. Anyway, so Dr. Gaver was brilliant, and he said, I'm going to recommend that you have a pedge fitted. I don't think a nasogastric one is right for you because she had so many hypersensitivities and lots of problems with her nose as well. But even though as a specialist he was recommending it, we had to fight to get it. They kept saying, no, it should be nasogastric. Then we had the fight about needs to be at a 30-degree angle and all of that Millie's going through currently. And when we got to the hospital, we thought we'd arranged everything. So everything was kind of like, right, this is going to be the safest hospital visit for her. Everything's in place, that this is a pedge, all the medication, pain relief, everything is arranged. And we got in there and the doctors didn't want to do it. And they were questioning the diagnosis of ME. They were questioning why she needed a feeding tube, questioning why it had to be a pedge. We'd had that many hospital appointments by this time. We knew to be prepared for this, even though we thought we had prepared for this prior to going in. So I already had information about ME. I had Dr. Gaber's letters stating she needs to have a pedge and she needs to be able to eat something for pleasure. If she can do that, that's brilliant, but it's not enough to maintain a nutrition. It could be maybe 50 calories a day or something. It was ridiculously small. So we thought, well, that was arranged, and they didn't want to do it. And at the time, I saw her notes, and we had an ongoing complaint going against the trust. And on the front of the notes was a big red sticker saying ongoing complaint. So that hospital knew we had a complaint going against their trust. And it was just a fight. It was just fighting and fighting for days. So this was all stress for Merryn, obviously, because she thought she was just going in to get the pedge. And then eventually they agreed to do it under duress, I would say. They didn't want to do it at all. And I thought I was prepared. Naively, I'd not looked at the procedure of having a PEG, and we'd not been given any information. We found out afterwards that anyone having a PEG fitted under 18 should have it done under general anaesthetic. And they said they would do it under sedation, which we thought was fine. It's okay. Merryn was okay with that. But again, we didn't understand the procedure. And I insisted on being in the room with her because obviously she couldn't talk. And the doctors didn't want me in the room. And I said, I'm saying that's that. She can't talk to you. She can't say if there's a problem, really. Although she could talk, if she was having to have a conversation, she would lose concentration and focus and wouldn't be able to understand what was being said to her. So they started the procedure. And Merryn was saying from the minute they started, I could feel it. I need more sedation. And they wouldn't listen to her. They just kept saying, no, you can't. No, you can't. And they carried on. And she was crying, saying, I can feel it. And I was saying, please, you've got to stop. She can feel it. You said she'd be sedated. You said she wouldn't feel anything. And she felt everything. And they did it wrong. They put the wrong tube down.
So they had to redo it.
They had to start all over again.
And still no more sedation.
They just kept saying, she can't feel it. She can't. It'll be over in a minute. And something that was meant to take 20 minutes took over an hour. And I was screaming the whole way through, please stop it. You've got to stop it. And Merryn was saying, I can feel it. I can feel it. Please stop. And they just refused. They just refused to stop it. And just ignored her and said, you can't feel it. She's sedated. She can't feel it. And they had to pull it all out and do it all again. It was absolutely horrendous. And then at the end of it, Merryn was taken out and the nurse said, did you not understand that it was quite a traumatic thing? I said, nobody explained that to us. She said, did you not have a leaflet explain? I said, no, nothing. And we've been so intense on kind of trying to make the hospital visit as safe from an ME perspective. I just felt so stupid after, thinking, why did I not look at this and question it? Great Ormond Street guidance is that it's done under general anaesthetic. Yeah. And when I came out and I said to the doctor, how could you do that? How could you talk to her like that? And he said, shut up, you stupid woman. I've got to go and save somebody who's bleeding to death. That was what he said. And I was conscious thinking, I've got to get back to Merryn anyway, because she's just traumatized by this. It was just absolute torture. And then we got back to the room and we thought we'd sorted, we'd sat down with them and said, you know, she needs to have medication afterwards, she's going to be in pain. She needs to have all the medication. How can we give that? Make sure that we... And they refused her any medication, they refused her any pain relief. They said she can't have anything down the PEG for 24 hours. And we said, we've addressed all of this. We looked at all of this and they just went back on everything they said. And in the end, they said she can have some paracetamol. And she was in absolute... Because obviously it was a massive trauma from having this fitted and the pain that had caused, but also all her ME symptoms have just all been triggered and all gone so much worse. So she was in absolute agony, and they refused her pain relief for hours,
just completely
hours and hours.
Inhuman.
Yeah,
it's just inhuman.
It was, and then that was the hospital admission that
Oldham. It was Royal Oldham.
Yeah.
There we go. I've got no
I was just about to ask you, what's the name of the hospital?
You're so worried about giving out any. I'm not. It's Royal Oldham. I'll shout it from the rooftops.
That would have been Merryn saying that.
Yeah.
After that, they still carried on with all the trying to get pain relief was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. Then she was transferred onto a sister ward because it was coming up to the weekend. We just wanted her out of there then. When they did start putting food down the PEG, she wasn't keeping it down. She was just vomiting. I was saying, is this normal? Should this be happening? And they was like, oh yeah, it's fine, it's normal. And this carried on, and I said she's still getting, she's been through this horrific thing, and she's still getting no nutrition. And there was like, well, she can go home on Sunday. Was it the weekend, wasn't it? And I was saying, but what about her nutrition? And that gets sorted in the community, and we just wanted to get her home anyway. So it was transferred onto the sister ward. And while she was there, we were still begging for pain medication because they weren't giving her adequate pain medication. That was kind of like as if we were drug seekers, basically. And we had a pain consultant. I don't think you were there.
No,
come in and
was that the one who said you've got to embrace?
No, that was at another hospital. Yeah, and I'd explained that I would be speaking for Merryn and blah blah, the reasons why, everything, and she just insisted. She was refusing the medication that Merryn was asking for. Insisted on only talking to Merryn, and she wouldn't even look at me. Insisting that Oromorph would, she was like, well, you don't want to be having any of that because you know it can end up making you infertile, and you don't want that young woman like you, do you? And it's like, children are the kind of least thing on her mind at the moment.
Yeah.
She needs pain relief. And this continued. And then I had to go home, didn't I? Because I'd food poisoned myself with a sandwich that I'd left in my bag from the canteen for over 24 hours.
Oh,
As if
God,
it couldn't get worse.
So Amy was staying with Merryn overnight, and at this point she could go get up out of bed with assistance and go on a commode next to the bed. She had to kind of lean against you to do it, but she was capable of doing that at the time. And you asked for a commode in the night, didn't you? And the nurse came in and said, well, there's a toilet there. And you said she can't use the toilet, she can't walk. And she went, what, not even to there? Obviously, totally embarrassing Merryn.
Yeah.
And just again, another fight, just to use a toilet.
We weren't even asking them to sit and help.
No, you were going to do
bring
all that.
it
We just have a commode so she can go to the toilet. And that was a drama. Anyway, the upshot of this hospital visit was on the day we'd been told we would be discharged, and she still had no feed at this point and no pain relief, or very limited pain relief. And a doctor and nurse came in, and obviously, I don't know if you've ever been in hospital at the weekend, it's always different stuff. And the final thing in the horrendous admission was the unfamiliar doctor and nurse came in when we were meant to be being discharged and said, we're not sure if you can go because there's been a safeguarding note put on the in her notes. They said, we don't know what it's about, we don't know who's made it, there's no information about it, just that there is a safeguarding referral gone in about you. And I worked as a counsellor at the time. My husband worked in a college, so we both were aware of reasons for safeguarding, the ways referrals were done. A referral only goes in without speaking to the parents first if it's about Munchausen's or sexual abuse. Otherwise, the procedure is you speak to the parents and tell them, look, I'm worried about this, we need to put in a referral about safeguarding. So I knew what it was about immediately. Merryn was terrified. We just said, right, that's it, we're going home. She's coming to hospital, she's being tortured, she's still not getting any nutrition. I know this. So we went home and obviously was terrified, waiting for this social work visit and all the knowledge that we had of this happening with other ME patients and children being taken away. And Merryn had all that knowledge as well and was terrified. And luckily, we got an amazing social worker.
Yeah, we did.
Who was like, I cannot believe that the hospital has done this.
I mean, they didn't even put the referral in right, did they?
No, the referral would have been done all wrong.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. The social worker actually ended up apologising to us, saying, I wish I could give you some support, but there's nothing I can do. And she put a complaint in against the hospital because she said, while she was trying to investigate the complaint that they'd made themselves, they were aggressive with her. They were refusing to give her information to investigate the complaint that they'd made. And so she ended up putting a complaint against them for
How
their...
good on her. Because I think in terms of any whistleblowing or making a complaint, especially if you, from what I've read, if you are a member of staff, I think you're sort of told not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she wasn't connected to that hospital, thankfully. She was with the
Right.
children with disabilities
Yeah.
team. We were just so thankful that, I mean, so lucky to
It
get.
could have gone a very, very,
Yeah.
very opposite direction, couldn't
yeah,
it? And horrific.
Yeah.
So what was the outcome of that then? That complaint, did that then not escalate because she'd counteracted it?
She said there were no concerns. The reasons for safeguarding that they said were,
You know too much.
I knew too much about ME. I carried a file with me that had things in it, things written in it, which was all the information I gathered about ME to be able to show them. It was a letter from a consultant who was a specialist in ME to be able to show them that Merryn was, I was claiming Merryn was being sick, but there was no evidence of that.
Even though she was sick in hospital.
She was being sick in hospital, and I had to keep the bowls of sick in the room with us so that they could come in and measure how much output there was compared to how little feed was going in. So at one point, because they didn't come in the room very often anyway, I think I had 5 bowls of sick in there with me. So they absolutely knew she was being sick. That was an outright lie.
The other was I was demanding Oromorph.
We was demanding pain relief. We kept the room dark. We spoke for her. Merryn was sometimes eating, so why did she need a pedge feed? And that information had been given in the consultant's letter saying, I want Merryn to be able to chew if she can, and spit that out or swallow some if she can, because the tube has been put in for nutrition, but I still want her to be able to eat for pleasure if she possibly can, anything. So that was all in the letter that was in this file that I had with me. So all the things were found to be just nonsense. Thankfully, the social worker said, you know, we know why she was in a dark room. She had severe photosensitivity, and we know why she had a mask on as well, and we know why she wasn't speaking, and you had to speak for her. So thankfully, she listened to all of that. I don't know what happened to the complaints against the hospital.
Probably nothing.
Probably nothing.
Probably nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to hear all of this because I've not read any of it anywhere to this degree.
Like we said, it's never ever been, they've never put it in anything that you've ever done or we've ever done. It's never been said, and we've always wanted this to be known, but I think they've just been so worried about getting sued. But
yeah.
Oh well.
Whoopsie daisy. I've got a question actually, if you don't mind answering, and it's about Merryn's autopsy. I read that they did find in her autopsy inflammation of the ganglia.
Yeah.
Dorsal root ganglia, weren't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not the first time it's been found in an autopsy. I appreciate that she's only the second person to have ME written on her death certificate, but surely that information, when shown or presented to the doctors that mistreated her, surely that is indicative of.
Yeah. The doctors who were at her inquest were all the ones from the Better Hospital.
Well, there was Overshot though.
Overshot was that.
That was a psychiatrist psychiatrist who said about like the Disney, and he completely changed his tune at the inquest.
I had a list of questions because I was devastated reading his notes, wasn't I? I remember talking to you about you saying you can't get that upset about them. But I was absolutely devastated reading them, and I had a list of questions I was going to ask him when he was up on the stand. I was just waiting for him to bring up all these things he'd said in his notes that he thought, you know, there really is some kind of mental health issue there. We've just not found it. And he just stood up there and no mental health issues at all. No, not one. No.
Totally changed it.
Was this after the autopsy had revealed the inflammation of the dorsal root?
Yeah. I just remember thinking, how can you stand there and be so sympathetic to us the way he was, and no mental health issues at all when you're writing these notes absolutely convinced there is some mental health issue that you've just not found.
I mean, look, we can't wait for someone to die to do an autopsy to prove that they're
No,
sick.
I know. Well, it's
Has it
like
been
the
some other
witches, isn't it?
cases as well?
We'll believe you now, you're dead. Oh yeah, you were right. Yeah, you were physically ill.
Yeah.
It's just.
I thought there was another case of it as well, though.
It's been
That's been
found
Sophie
in
Mercer.
other people.
there's not just Sophia Mercer, there's been other people as well. I'm sure of it. I'm sure there's quite a few that
Well, yeah.
yeah.
But they
There's
haven't
a
got it on.
science
They haven't
No,
got
they
it
don't
on
get it on ME and the death certificate.
Yeah, but the Ramsey research has done postmortems on people, and they have found the same, the dorsal root ganglia, the inflammation there. But it's just that's not gone to a postmortem and an inquest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the dorsal root ganglia, that's along the spinal cord, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which speaks volumes in
Yeah.
terms of what you go through, the inflammation of her spinal cord.
Yeah.
She's got a psychiatrist wondering why she likes Disney. It got
She
me.
also liked Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Yeah, she also liked Game of Thrones as well. So I mean, if we told him
Dare you?
that,
She should have liked Vikings. I don't know if it was out then.
She couldn't watch new things.
No, she couldn't.
She liked drama, didn't she? Wasn't she a drama student from what I'd read?
Yeah.
She wanted to go on to study at LIPA, the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts.
It's very good, weren't
Yeah,
he
yeah.
would have been very, very good.
Yeah.
But
She did a Victoria Wood piece, didn't she?
yeah.
As part of a school thing, and she was hilarious. She's absolutely hilarious, and she didn't mind taking the mickey out of herself or whatever, because she played the Victoria Wood person, didn't she?
Yeah.
Who was like kind of really unfit, and all the humour was aimed at her, kind of, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
she was hilarious.
Have you got it filmed?
No,
I don't know though. All the Hill probably
They
have
might
it somewhere
have,
in
they
their
might have.
in their drama archives
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it, to have?
Yeah.
Just to see.
I know her when she died, after she died, and you put it on Facebook, didn't you? Her old drama teacher did write a really lovely comment saying that she was one of the best students he'd had, and that he'll never forget her. Basically,
He'd always said,
Yeah.
when we went for like school reports, he'd always say Merryn's my favourite. I know I shouldn't have favourite, but Merryn's my favourite.
Yeah.
21
Yeah.
years old. I mean, did after all this, and again the stress that's involved, I can't even begin to imagine, but did you seek any lawyers for the abuse?
Yeah,
You did.
I did, because I was so angry, and I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but I lost another child. She
I'm
died
not
when she
aware
was
of
8
that,
days old.
no.
No, she died when she was 8 days old, and that was because of the hospital. This is what I said. We knew we'd had experience of it before, and she died because of complications at the birth that should have been spotted. And even my own GP at the time said you should sue them, but it wasn't as easy then. And I just thought, no, they'll learn the lesson. This won't happen to anybody else. And then, I thought I won't be able to grieve properly if I've got this going on. And it was a much different process back then. This is 27 years ago. So there were no win, no fee things and things like that. It was, and I just thought this won't be good for me. Emotionally, it won't be good for me to go down that route. And when Merryn died, and I just thought, fuck that.
Yeah.
They need to pay.
It's the only way they're going to learn.
Yeah.
How are they going to learn if they don't? Because everything just seems to go off the backside, water off a duck's back. It just, nothing seems to, that phrase, lessons will be learned, but they never are.
It's just what they roll out, isn't it?
Yeah.
When that's what they roll out to avoid accountability.
Yeah.
Lessons will be learned.
I thought, no, this time I am going to do it. And so we did proceed with a solicitor, and we couldn't, because there's like a 3-year rule.
Yeah.
So you have to start proceedings within 3 years. And all the treatment that we would have been complaining about happened in the first 3 years of Merryn's illness.
And it was 3 years later.
And it was
6 years from the start of it,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. So it And it's different as well when they're under 18. There's a different rule as well. So we actually couldn't, which is so wrong. But yeah, if I'd been able to, I would have absolutely taken them to the cleaners.
And if we win the lottery, that's what we're going to do.
I'm obviously trying to get healthy people, not just the ME bubble, on board to sign the petition. So, as best you can, in your words, what would it mean to you, given what you've gone through, and what would it mean to Merryn for each signature that we essentially get on this?
It will mean everything. We were just talking about this before, weren't we? Merryn had a dream with Cara, who was one of her ME friends, one of her best friends, Cara Jane, and they had a dream of, you know, they both got better. Cara died from ME.
I know.
You know Cara, yeah.
Yeah, I know
And
her story.
they had a dream, the pair of them, to set up an ME centre, you know, to be like a respite for people with ME, or to, if they needed a hospital visit, to go there and be treated the way that they need to be treated, like something like Millie going in, you know, and they would be treated right. And
because the doctors would all understand.
Yeah,
the staff would all understand. They would, and that is such a far way off. But if healthy people who are able to make changes, we're able to make those, it might not actually be that far off. If people get on board with things and people start to try and change things for the ME community, stuff like that, it won't just be a dream eventually, hopefully. It won't be. And then people like Millie and people like Merryn and Cara, they'll have somewhere where hopefully they can go, a safe place where they can go and be treated. And I always also think, you don't want, as a healthy person, you don't want to get this condition, and you don't want your children to get this condition or your loved ones to get this condition, because there's nothing there for you if you do, really. You are going to learn that your best support is the ME community itself. And until people who don't have ME, or people who can make changes on like legally and medically in the medical community, until they start doing more and getting on board things like petitions and like research and stuff like that, it's not going to change. And we need people to be aware of ME who are outside of ME.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm hoping, you know, whether it's the Vikings fans or people that have watched stuff I've been in, or just general followers on Instagram, I'm just praying that they'll see this and go, it takes 2 seconds, I'll sign that. It doesn't even ask for that much information. Ask for an email. Not answer, but just like adding on with your dream. I'm telling you this now, it's not too far off. And if I keep getting better, it's on the agenda. And Sally Callow ended her interview with pretty much the same thing, of her dream of wanting to set up this centre. I think it's going to take someone who's either had ME and has got better to start it. But either way, a whole cohort of healthy people are needed to get it running, and get it running efficiently and properly, and making sure that there's no harm done. I mean, isn't that like a thing in the NHS? Harm none or something? Isn't that
Do no harm. Do no harm. But yeah. Do no harm until you just disagree with something, then it's fine.
Obviously they don't think so. They don't know.
Hi Alice. How are you today?
I'm okay, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you for doing this.
I thought, to keep the interview short and sweet with your ME in mind, you might like to begin by telling us about Merryn's Smile Day.
Yeah, well, Merryn Spa Day is one of our special events where we send what we call smiles, which are personalised presents, to nominated severe and very severe ME sufferers in Merryn Crofts' name. We started the event in 2019 because I kept thinking about Merryn and wondering if there was any way I could help commemorate her within what we do at Smile. So I thought, what about dedicating a day to celebrating her? So I reached out to her mum Claire, and told her about my idea, and she kind of gave her blessing. So we went ahead and created Merryn Smile Day. We chose the date 13th of May as it's Merryn's birthday, and each year Claire continues to give her blessing, and we continue to celebrate Merryn in this way. We send smiles which are different to our regular monthly smiles. We give the options of balloons, cuddly toys, cozy sets, flowers, or a plant, and then we personalise as much as we can. And we don't wrap the presents because we appreciate unwrapping presents with severe ME can be difficult in many ways. And each smile is sent with a rose quartz heart, which means love and healing because Merryn loved rose quartz. And we've got another 40 being sent this year, which takes the total to 227, all in memory of Merryn.
I think it's a really beautiful concept. And it's so nice that you found a way to include people with severe ME, especially because it can be very isolating and lonely, this illness, at any end of it, but especially, of course, at the more severe end. So I think it's an amazing concept. And I also read that you were friends with Merryn. Can you tell me a little bit about your friendship with her?
Yeah, well, I met Merryn online in 2013. We initially connected because of both having ME, but then we bonded over both having flowery bedding, and we got chatting, and we'd send messages back and forth when well enough, which then led on to cards and little presents. And she loved balloons, which is why we offer balloons as one of the options. We just became friends. She was really kind, and she had a bright and warm personality that shone through the screen with her messages and in her words and the cards.
I also just wondered, and if you're not comfortable answering this, it's absolutely fine, but have you had any experience with the NHS and your ME?
I've had a bit. I've always tried to avoid it as much as possible because of my experiences. Initially, in 2009, I was having hospital appointments, and graded exercise therapy and cognitive behavioural therapy I was told to do that, and it was around the time of the PACE trial, and so me and my family were told it was help, and it was coming from medical professionals, so we trusted them, but quickly learnt the hard way all it did was make me worse, and no amount of positive thinking helped. So that started my distrust of doctors. And then more recently, on top of ME, I now have MCAS, and I was going through a particularly bad time last year. My throat was swelling anytime I ate or drank anything, so I was struggling to eat or drink. And then I had a blood test which showed as low potassium. So my GP rang and admitted me into hospital. And so then I was in hospital, and the consultant came in and just automatically diagnosed me as having an eating disorder. He didn't understand or want to listen that I didn't, and that MCAS was the problem. He just incorrectly diagnosed me. But thankfully, because my potassium blood test came back normal, I was allowed to go home even though I wasn't able to eat or drink. So I was thankfully able to get out of that situation. And then my wonderful private doctor helped get my MCAS and ME pen from that situation more under control.
I assume, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that by going into hospital and having an experience like that, undoubtedly you likely deteriorated. I don't want to put words into your mouth, but I'm just going off how I might have reacted myself under those conditions.
Yeah, it was the first time I'd left the house in 9 years. So ME-wise, it was a huge thing and caused a lot of payback.
I'm really sorry to hear that. This seems to be on repeat. I'm hoping with my YouTube channel that I'll be able to continue to drive the narrative behind, I say post-infectious illness, in the right direction. I appreciate not everyone had a severe viral infection before it, or an infection that they knew of. I did. Did you have an infection before you got sick?
Yeah, I had swine flu in 2009 when I was 14 and just never recovered.
And how many years have you been unwell?
It's been 15 years now.
Wow, yeah, it's really disappointing. I truly appreciate your time doing this interview, and I do not want to take up too many of your spoons because I appreciate you've got the whole day to contend with. So at any point, if you would like to go, that's absolutely fine. I feel like we've spoken enough. If you want to stay, there's more questions I can ask you, but how are you feeling?
Thank you. I'm okay. I can stay a bit longer. Sorry, I was nervous to do this, but I found a bracelet Merryn gave me and it says be brave. So I decided to be brave and chat because I normally like to be quiet behind the scenes. I'm being brave and chatting.
I'll tell you a secret. I was really nervous as well, so that makes two of us. But it's lovely to meet you, and actually just talking to you, my nerves have gone, ooh, so that's really nice.
Yeah, no, and thank you for all you're doing. And with Bake for ME as well, and choosing Smile to support. It really means a lot. So thank you.
I actually had an impulsive idea, putting you on the spot now. I was thinking that maybe in line with Merryn Smile Day and the week that you run that, we could do a bake-off and perhaps only have Smile for ME as the donation. And that might push more traffic towards your charity, because I absolutely love it. And I know you're so, whoever's running your team, you're always so active when it comes to the bake-offs, and I really appreciate that, because obviously it's so amazing to see the cakes fly in. So yeah, I was thinking that maybe in line with Merryn Smile Day, we could do a special thing that is just for Smile for ME, if you're up for it.
That's really kind. Yes, thank you. I'd love that.
I really like the concept behind Smile for ME. I think I once read a book about love languages, and gifts is one of my love languages. So I really love that.
Yeah. No, I just like, I know from personal experience, having ME, of receiving something in the post always brightened my day. So I wanted to be able to do it to others.
Yeah, I reached out to you initially because of the Merryn's Smile Day. And I suppose that kind of unique relationship that you two had formed as ME patients, from however long you knew her, can you just tell me a little bit more about that friendship and what it meant to you?
The friendship meant a lot because we both met when we were teenagers and our lives had been completely changed by ME. And the ME community and our friendship was a silver lining within that. And she helped me feel less alone, and she'd make me smile even with everything she was going through. She was still always thinking of others. So I feel lucky to have known her. She was a special person, and I hope in a small way I can help share her specialness within doing Merryn Smile Day in her memory.
I read on your website, her mum had said Merryn doesn't, and she said this actually in the interview with me as well, Merryn didn't walk into a room, she bounced, and that kind of sounded similar to me. Back in the day, I would bounce around. For yourself, and obviously being at the severe end, and I think you said 15 years into it, is there any advice or words of wisdom you'd like to give anyone?
I think just a day at a time, a step at a time, and I'm not sure, just take it as it comes. I always keep hope that things will get better, and just surround yourself with good people who try and help keep you smiling during the difficult times.
Well, I think your charity in particular, and I'm not just saying this, has definitely put smiles on so many people's faces, mine being one of them. And yeah, I'll be really honoured to link up with you with Bake 4 and see what we can do with that. I might keep I've got a link where people can donate to Millie. I might keep that on. But either way, I think it would be quite nice to just have, let's have a week or 2 weeks of celebrating Merryn Crofts, and maybe we can coincide it with this coming out.
Yeah, that'd be nice to be able to celebrate Merryn like that. Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much. It's been so lovely to chat with you, and I really do understand and appreciate the time. I'm very grateful to not be at the severe end of ME, but I've had tastes of it. And yeah, it's horrific. So I just appreciate your time to do this. And I hope you don't have too much payback.
No, thank you, and thank you for all you're doing.
Oh, I will keep going. You just in line with any improvements for me. Trust me, I will keep going. It's picked on the wrong people.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. It really means a lot that you support Smile. It's like my baby, so thank you.